that's the good stuff. Hi friends! Today I'm going to be exposing myself in a way that's completely in alignment with YouTube's terms and conditions. I'm going to be exposing some of my best and worst purchases that I have made for my disability and chronic illness and tier ranking them. I know tier rankings have been kind of a trend on YouTube for quite some time. It's probably not even trendy anymore. I'm probably way too late to this particular party, but like, that's the wind, I do apologize. Oh my gosh. So I'm going to be tier ranking 17 items that I've bought over the last 7 years-ish, all with my own money. And I'm going to be ranking them under 3 specific criteria, and that is usefulness to me personally. So this is specifically whether or not this item worked for me. Obviously, I can only speak for myself, so all of my opinions in this video are literally just from my own experience. And then the second criteria is stylishness. Does it look good? Is it cute? Is it appealing and fun? And is there some personality to it or not? And the third criteria is value for money. And I'm going to try and do this on a cost per use basis. So rather than saying this was expensive, so it's not worth it or whatever, I'm going to be trying to say, okay, cost per use. How much is this item costing me? Because obviously if you buy something expensive but you use it every single day, the cost per use is going to come down significantly and make it a better value purchase for the money you paid for it. I'm going to rank everything under those 3 criteria out of 5, and then I'm going to give an overall score. These are letter scores, so it's going to be from S to D rank. Hopefully that doesn't sound too complicated. We'll get into it as we go, it's fine. And also, I was chatting with my partner Kieran on Discord last night, and he gave me his estimates on what I'm going to give each and every one of these items. So I'm going to put what Kieran guessed down in the corner, and we'll compare it to what I give each item and see if we match up, see how many he gets right. I also realised I forgot to light the candles in the background and the lighter's all the way downstairs, so we're just gonna skip that. Just pretend. You can't smell it anyway, it's fine. It's really just for my benefit. Okay, so starting off with an easy one, the first one I'm gonna be ranking is my NeoWalks walking sticks. So I have 2 NeoWalks walking sticks, a pink one that lights up and a purple one. They both have bubbles inside, and I've had these now for 1 to 2 years. I bought my NeoWalk sticks after using a couple of different mobility aids before that we're gonna talk about later that just, they weren't doing it for me in the same way. So starting out, my NeoWalk sticks, how would I rank them for stylishness? Out of 5, obviously this is going to be a 5. The whole point of NeoWalk sticks is that they give some personality to mobility aids. Walking sticks already carry such a stigma, especially if you're a young person using one. And I just love how NeoWalks give some, you know, stylishness, and they don't try to hide the fact that you're using mobility aid. I'm letting my personality shine through while using it. And so, yeah, for stylishness, NeoWalk sticks get a 5 out of 5 for me. The second criteria is usefulness, to me personally, as always are going to be. And I find that NeoWalk sticks are very, very useful to me. I mean, I'm a full-time mobility aid user at this point, pretty much. I take my walking stick out with me, my NeoWalk sticks, every time I go anywhere, and they are really, really supportive, which is one of the things that I really like about NeoWalk sticks. They are quite thick acrylic, which does mean they're a little bit more heavy, and sometimes, especially when I was first starting to use them and like learn how to like hold it properly and use it properly, it did give me a little bit of wrist pain because I am prone to that. I don't know, because you can't have stability and have them be really light at the same time. That's really difficult to achieve. So yeah, I'm not going to knock off a point. I'm going to give them 5. I'm going to give them 5 for stylishness. I'm going to give them 5 for usefulness. Third criteria is value for money. Now, NeoWalk sticks are a little bit more on the expensive side. They are the most expensive mobility aids that I've bought for myself. And part of that is because they are a small business, especially when I first bought from them. It literally was the lady who makes them, I think, and just her and her family operating the business, and I'm pretty sure it still is, for what they are. And I imagined like getting the supplies and the materials, having them made, shipping them out, making a profit, especially if people want add-ons. Like, I don't need lights in my walking stick, but like I need lights in my walking stick. So yeah, I'm going to give a 4 out of 5 for price range, because they are a little bit expensive for some people. I imagine they'd put them out of the price range, which is really sad, but I don't think that they're overcharging at all. Cost per use, it's very cheap for me because I use them all the time. So yeah, I'm going to give NeoWalks a 4 out of 5 for value for money. Sorry, my cat's here. You may have just heard the meowing. So overall, what score am I going to give the NeoWalks walking sticks? Kieran said that the NeoWalk sticks would be in S tier, the best tier, the highest tier on my list, and yeah, they're going in S tier. I use them all the time. Great value for money. They are so full of personality and they make me feel good about using a mobility aid. And that for me, that's an S. So well done, Earwalks. You are the first one and you're in the top tier. So number 2 is a recent one for me and it is a Philips wake up light. I actually got this as a Christmas gift from my dad, so thanks Dad. And it was one of those times when I realised, when he was asking me what I would like for Christmas, and I was like, could I have a wake up light? And I was like, am I old? Am I getting old now that like a wake up light that I've wanted for a number of years is what I'm asking for Christmas. It's probably not the most exciting thing, but I really enjoyed it, and so far it's been doing pretty well. So the idea of this clock is that it wakes you up with light. So if you set an alarm for a certain time in the morning, the light cycle actually starts half an hour before that time, and it starts off quite red and quite dim. And slowly, over a period of half an hour, it gets brighter and brighter. And it's not a bright blue light or anything like that. It's supposed to emulate the sunrise, so it's very yellow in tone and very warming. And at the end of that half an hour cycle, if you're still dead to the world, it plays like a natural sound. So for me, it's birdsong, which is just delightful. It's a really gentle way to wake up. And I find that this helps for my chronic fatigue syndrome because honestly, a traditional alarm, I don't know what it is about traditional alarms. If it wakes you up in such a harsh way that it really pulls you out of maybe like a deeper sleep or a REM sleep, when you have chronic fatigue syndrome, getting up can be a bit of a struggle. So for me, something like this is just very useful for chronic fatigue. So let's move on to the scoring. Now, stylishness is not going to be always relevant for all of these categories, but it's relevant for most. And I am just going to say it's a clock, so it doesn't need to be like amazing and beautiful and wonderful, but it does look really cool. I really like how it looks on my bedside table. I would say it gets a 4 out of 5 for stylishness for me. The next category is usefulness. And overall, I've been really happy with how it works. It's been waking me up in the morning. I've been like more, ready to go and like ready to get out of bed by the time that the light cycle is finished. And it's really helped me wake up in a gentle way. I don't feel jolted out of sleep. The problem is I'm finding that I wake up at different times during the sleep cycle. If I'm having a light sleep in particular, I will wake up like 5 minutes into that light cycle, even though I've got it on a dimmer setting, because you can adjust that. I'll wake up 5 minutes in and I'll get like half an hour less sleep than I would have liked. Or sometimes I do wake up at the end with the bird song, which is, I guess, technically what's supposed to happen. I don't know, I'm just finding it really difficult to get the right balance. And for that reason, I wouldn't really feel confident using this as my only wake up source. So I'm going to have to knock off a point for that, just for me personally, because I am so sensitive and my body's like, yeah, hello, light. So because of that, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 for usefulness. Moving on to value for money, it was on sale and I think it was £60. It is kind of expensive for a clock, but I've honestly been looking to get one of these for years and some of them are really expensive. I guess because we got it on sale, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. I think that's fair. So what category am I going to put the wake up light in? This is a new one and it's definitely not perfect, but I am really enjoying it. So I'm going to put this in A tier. It's not quite S tier, but it's pretty high up there. Number 3 is my trusty kitchen stool. This one was actually a gift from my mum because eventually we kind of realized that I needed a way to be able to cook and do things in the kitchen specifically when I was having a low spoons day. I spend a lot of time home alone during the day anyway because I work from home, but there are also periods of time fairly frequently where I'm in the house alone for like a week or 5 days or whatever, and so I'm doing my own cooking for every meal. I don't have the help that I normally would when I have a low spoons day, so I have to cook every meal, look after myself, the cat, do the dishes, do the cleaning and do work stuff. So if I'm tired or struggling with chronic fatigue syndrome, it can be really tough just to stand there. I really like the way that it looks. It's pretty comfortable as well. And I would just say overall, it's pretty stylish. It fits with our pink kitchen. So I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5 for stylishness. And then for usefulness, I use this all the time. Whenever I'm having a low spoons day, the stool comes in clutch. The only issue with it is because it is a stool without a back at all, or even a low back, it can be a little bit difficult when you have EDS and you tend to kind of collapse, like, like a cat that's trying to like sit like a human and it just doesn't have the spine to do it, and you're like this. There are comfier chairs in the world, but for its purpose, it's pretty good. So for usefulness to me, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. Value for money, again, this was a gift. My mum bought it and I was asking her about it and she said she's really happy with it because I use it a lot, and so the cost per use is going to be pretty low. So we'll give it a 5 for that. So where am I going to put the kitchen stool in terms of the overall rating? I'm going to give the kitchen stool, I'm going to put it in, this is really hard. I'm going to put it in A for now. We'll see if it moves, but I'm going to put it in A for now. I use it a lot. Okay, so moving on to the next one. This is my sunflower lanyard. Basically what the sunflower lanyard is a lanyard that you can attach to pretty much anything with a little tag on the end. You can put it on bags. I have mine on my wallet, so it's a little bit more secure. And it basically is a really useful sign for people working in different arenas, wherever you may be out and about, to symbolize to them that you have some kind of disability. Go on the website, you order a sunflower lanyard, and you put some information in and a photograph of yourself saying, you know, what disability that you have and how it affects you. There's also some for like, you can make your own, but there's some like set ones that have the most common symptoms for each disability. So it's very handy in that way. You don't have to do your own research or fill it in yourself. It's got handy little logos for what you might need help with on it. So like for me, it's like I might need a seat, for example, or I might need to use accessible bathroom, things like that. The idea is that people can see you have a disability and they're going to be more ready to potentially help you with things that you might need help with. I found that when I was going out and about, that I was always preparing in my head the spiel of like my disability and all that it kind of encompasses and all that kind of stuff. And it's just really, really handy to have something you can hand over to someone and give them a good general overview of what you might be struggling with and what you might need. So now you know what it is, let's get into the ratings for the sunflower lanyard. So number one is stylishness. This isn't really that much of a concern here. The most important thing is that it is a notable, easily recognizable item that people understand, you know, what it means, and it does its job. For usefulness, this is a little bit difficult. It's got nothing to do with the people who like make sunflower lanyards or anything like that, and I'm not blaming them. But unfortunately in 2020, some people were using the sunflower lanyard under false pretenses in bad faith to avoid wearing a mask, which thanks, you know, we finally had something that was becoming more of a recognizable symbol of disability, and here you are making it about you because you don't want to wear a mask and protect people's lives. And this obviously is not the fault of the people who make the sunflower lanyard, but it has made it a little bit less useful for people. I know people have said that like they'll be wearing their sunflower lanyard because, like, say, for example, they struggle with, let's just say they have EDS like me, and they're walking around, they'll be wearing a mask, and someone will come over to them and say, oh, you do know you don't have to wear a mask if you have one of those. And they're like, that is not why I'm wearing this. The sunflower lanyard is not just about wearing masks. It never has been, and it should not be that. So for some people, I know it's been less than useful. For me personally, I can't say I've had too much reason to use my sunflower lanyard yet, but it does give me a lot of comfort knowing that I have it there, especially if I was ever doing any kind of solo travel. I'm going to give it a 4. I think it would maybe go up to a 5 if I had cause to use it more often. This is obviously about my experience, but yeah, for me, it's more of a 4 out of 5. And finally, value for money. I can't remember exactly how much I paid for this, but it certainly wasn't a lot, and it was, you know, it was worth the money to have that peace of mind. I think that's what it provides me, is peace of mind. So for me, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. I do wish that there was a more easily accessible way for people to have this kind of very, you know, nationally recognized symbol of disability without having to pay for it. But I also know that these things need to be paid for, and if it's not being supplied by a government, which it should be. But yeah, that's just my only little gripe about it, but that's more of a social thing. So I'm going to give it a 4 for that. Overall, I'm going to give the sunflower lanyard, it's going in B tier. Our lowest one yet. Nothing wrong with it. I think it's really helpful. I'll certainly be using mine hopefully in the future, and it will come in handy, but there's just a few issues with sunflower lanyards that make it kind of drop down a couple tiers for me. Okay, so the next one is my crutches. And I've mentioned them before, actually. Yeah, don't know if any of you remember. I mentioned my crutches in the past. And doing your research here is vital so you don't end up like me with 2 useless pink crutches leaning up against a wall forever. Kind of my secret shame. So basically what happened was, when I was looking for a mobility aid that suited me a little bit more than what I had at the time, which was a foldable walking stick, I actually looked at getting crutches because someone else who I follow, she uses crutches. She also has EDS. She said it works really well for her. To me, it was a little bit less stigmatized, if I'm honest, than using a walking stick. I definitely wasn't mentally in a place where I felt confident using a walking stick yet. And so I tried some crutches. I went on a walk using these crutches, and it was incredibly uncomfortable. If you have wrist problems, they are probably not the mobility aid for you. I don't know how I got back home with them. It was not a fun time, and they are in the corner still. They are still in the corner waiting to be donated to charity. I must take them to a charity shop. That is going to be my goal for the year, you guys. Get those pink crutches out of my room and to someone who can actually use them. So yeah, let's get into the ratings. They're really cute. They're pink, so it fits kind of my personality. They're not like kind of a boring color. I think they look pretty stylish. They're not trying to hide the fact that they're a mobility aid, and I like that about them. So for stylishness, I'm going to give them like a 4 out of 5. Usefulness to me, obviously very little. No use at all. Use them once, can't use them again. Caused me a lot of pain, were not for me, so I'm going to give them a 1 for usefulness. The next one, value for money. The crutches were a little bit expensive, and I remember paying for them and being a little bit like, oh, I hope these work out, and then of course they didn't work out at all, so that was kind of a waste. And cost per use, obviously it's been awful because I've used them like once or twice and it was not a good time, so they're a 1. They're a 1 for value for money for me, unfortunately. Where to put them? Unfortunately, I think the crutches are going in the D tier. I'm sorry, they're not for me. You know, they're probably for someone else. I hope they can help someone else, but they are not for me. And so for that reason, they're going in the bottom. So the next one is my knee compression sleeves. I made quite a few little funny Instagram posts about my knee compression sleeves, trying to get them on and off, over and under various other items of clothing, because it's always fun. But I use these pretty often. They offer compression specifically to my knees, which tend to swell and get very painful. I can get varicose veins in them. My blood just pools in my knees and it's not a good time. That being said, they are not the nicest looking or the most comfortable of items. I will say that. I don't like how they look. They are quite useful though. So how are we going to rank these? So for stylishness, they're not. I got them in black because I was like, oh, it's less, like it'll go with more things. But actually I don't wear a lot of black, so it actually goes with pretty much nothing. Stylishness, these are getting like a 1 out of 5. They're just, it's not it, okay? They're not it. For usefulness to me, they have been very useful and I use them a lot. And even though I complain about them and joke about them and they're kind of ugly and they're getting all bubbly and worn, for me, usefulness, I'm gonna give them a 4 out of 5 because they have done what they're meant to do. They're fairly light compression, but it definitely helps and I do notice a difference when I wear them. And then value for money. These were relatively cheap ones that I bought. They were just some random brand and they weren't very expensive. And with the amount of times that I've worn them over like a couple of years now, cost per use, it's almost nothing. So I'm going to give them a 5 out of 5 for value for money for me. And then overall, what do we give the knee compression sleeves? Oh, this is hard because they scored real low on stylishness and I like things to look nice and not look kind of terrible. I'm gonna put them B rank. I think B rank is fair. I'm trying to like balance the 1 and the 5 stars here. So B rank for the knee compression sleeves. This next one, anyone who knows me personally or who's been in my presence recently, they're gonna find quite hilarious. So recently I treated myself to a foot spa, one of those electric foot spa things. Now, the reason I got one of these, and you're wondering how it's related to chronic illness or disability, is because I found out that people with EDS, like this one, are often very malnourished when it comes to certain vitamins, and you're often very deficient in magnesium in particular, and it's a really important thing to have to help combat the symptoms of EDS. I'm not a doctor, this is just some research I read. Do your own research. I'm not recommending, I'm just explaining my personal experience. So I was like, oh, how can I get some more magnesium? Because people would probably say take a supplement, but I also have malabsorption in my stomach right now. And that's just going to be a huge waste of money and some very expensive pee. So instead of getting a tablet to take that's magnesium, I was like, Epsom salts, they're magnesium, right? Someone was talking about them. Apparently they're great, good for some muscles, perfect for EDS. The only problem is you have to use like 2.5 to 3 cups of Epsom salts per bath. And if you're trying to get a daily dose of magnesium, that's super expensive, like really, really expensive. I can't afford that. I saw someone say you can use any amount. So you can use smaller amounts of water and just adjust the amount of Epsom salts per use. So something like a foot spa uses a lot less water, a lot less Epsom salts, and a lot cheaper. So I bought myself a foot spa, and I imagined I was going to sit in the evenings and like do some reading and have my little ambient lights on and just have my foot spa going. It was a heated one. I was like, this is going to be amazing over winter. I'm going to love this. Every night is a spa night with this foot spa. Okay. Got it on a good deal. Got it on a bit of a sale. I remember setting it all up, getting ready to go. I was like, well, I can sit in the living room, you know, someone will be watching TV. I'll be there with my little foot spa. It's going to be great. Got everything set up, put the Epsom salts in, turned it on. Oh my God, it is the loudest foot spa I have ever used in my life. It is so loud. Like, I remember my mum being in the floor above me and I could hear her laughing when I turned it on the floor below because it was so loud and she knew what I just turned on. It was like an earthquake machine. So loud. The vibration just really goes right through you. And, you know, we've had foot spas in the past in like the early to mid 2000s, and I swear they were nowhere near this loud or disruptive. Like, it was never like this before. And all of a sudden, my ideas about peaceful evenings, reading and having a little foot spa time came crashing down with the sound of this foot spa reverberating through my skull. And there was literally one point where I was like quite prone to migraines and headaches a couple of months ago. And I remember sitting with my little feet in the foot spa. I was watching YouTube with subtitles on because I couldn't hear what the person was saying no matter how loud. I turned up the volume and I just thought, you know what? I can't handle this anymore. It's giving me a migraine. I had to turn it off before the like allotted time. So that was a bit of a fail. In my defense, I didn't know it was going to be that loud. I had no idea. I thought, what a nice idea. The foot spa has not yet made it back out of the box, and I don't know when it next will. Stylishness for this, I'm not going to give it a rating because that doesn't really matter. Usefulness to me, God, I don't know. I guess it technically does its job. It didn't say it was like a really quiet one, but it's basically unusable because of how loud it is. So I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5 for usefulness. And value for money, I got it on sale, which is good, but honestly, cost per use, it's going to be expensive because I'm not using it a lot. So I'm going to have to give it a 2 for that as well. So it's pretty low ranking, and I'm going to put the foot spa in the D category. Rip my ideas of a cozy night in. So the next one I'm going to be talking about is my wrist splints, which again, if you're a friend or anyone and you like Kieran, for example, my best friend Ari, we play games a lot in the evenings, a couple nights a week, and I don't think anyone even bats an eyelid anymore when they probably hear down the mic like because I am taking off or putting on the Velcro wrist splints to play games. It's who I am, okay? These things are who I am. So the story of how I actually got these wrist splints originally was they were given to me for free on the NHS by my occupational therapist who I was working with on my crazy hands and wrists. They wore out eventually and I had to buy my own versions of these. So that's why I'm saying I bought it, because I did end up buying it eventually. They're by a company called ProMedics. Yeah, that's what they do. They support your hands and wrists. They're pretty low, like compression. I'd say like medium support. I find them to be quite supportive depending on how tight I put them on with those Velcro tabs. So, stylishness. This is a problem with these things. They are ugly, okay? Daphne and Celeste, those of you who are old enough to remember, I think that song was about these wrist splints. The thing about them is they're not like a nice material, but they have to be made of that. I think it's neoprene or whatever. It has to be made of that. That's fine. Totally fine. But what is this color? Whose skin tone? No one's skin tone is meant to be this way. It's like they were like, what color shall we make these wrist splints in? Oh God, it's really difficult because like there are so many skin tones and like it's going to cost us more to make a diverse range of skin tones or even fun colors. So let's just do one color that looks vaguely like what skin color might look like if we were all lit up from the inside by like 100 LEDs. No one's skin is this color. It's like a bright yellow. It's too bright. It's too saturated. No one's skin looks like this. Sometimes I have to use them when I'm out with my walking stick because my wrist is bothering me, but I don't like doing it for that reason. So for stylishness, these weirdos get a 1 out of 5. Usefulness. They actually are quite useful. I have used them a lot throughout the years. Like I said, I wore through my first pair and had to buy a new pair because I use them all the time. I found them to be really helpful for my wrists. They don't overcompensate for my wrists or make them weaker, but they support them enough when I'm struggling to let me like do my work or play my video games. Very important. And so for that reason, for usefulness, I'm going to give them a 5. Can't complain. Value for money. They are pretty expensive and they discontinued the kind that I like and they now have this like rod in them. That's the only kind I can get. I don't need that. I don't want that, but there's literally no other option and it's the only brand whose products I've ever used that I actually like. You can get like a lot of off-brand ones that just aren't great, and since this brand is for the medical profession and recommended by my OT, that's the brand I've stuck with, but they're pretty expensive. I think the ones with the rod in are like £15 per, for one. So you don't get a pair, you just get one at a time. So like that's pretty expensive. That's like £30 for 2. Cost per use, it's probably pretty good, but I do gripe about the fact that they are ugly as hell and kind of expensive. So I'm going to give them a 3 out of 5, just because if you're a patient or a consumer paying for this, it's a lot. The next one is my foldable walking stick. Now, if you've been around for a while, I've mentioned this before, it's essentially a retired item. It's the first mobility aid that I ever bought myself. And at the time, my needs were a little bit different. So I needed a walking stick sometimes, but not all the time. And I found that when I was out and about, I could suddenly get to a place where like, whoa, I've been fine, but now I need some help to like finish out my day. And so a foldable stick seemed like the best option. And that's what I got. Honestly, trying to get one that was long enough for me, because foldable sticks tend to come in different like length availabilities, was very difficult. I found that like, I guess I just assumed that people who were my height were men, and thus men don't like colours apparently, and so it was really hard to find a nice looking one that was as long as I needed it to be. As a result, it was slightly shorter than I would have liked it, and I didn't use it too much before my needs changed and I really needed a better quality walking stick. So step 1 for stylish, it's pink, it has flowers on, my favourite flowers on it, so I can't really complain about that. For what it is, again, it was the one with the most personality that I could find at the time, and I still think it's cute now. Like I wouldn't not use it, so I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 for that. I probably would have tweaked it if it were me making it, but it was pretty cute. Usefulness to me, it served its purpose for a little while, but honestly that didn't last too long. I've had to pause video making and go and upload the video so far onto my computer because it ran out of space. So I am now 2 mugs of tea in to this video and the wind keeps whistling and things are going wrong, but we're going to stick with it. It's fine. So yeah, usefulness to me, it was quite limited. I'm going to give it maybe a 3 out of 5. I guess it wasn't the stick's fault that I sort of needed something a bit more sturdy much more quickly than I was expecting. But yeah, 3 out of 5. And then for value for money, it actually wasn't a super expensive thing to buy, but cost per use, it was quite expensive for me because I just didn't use it for very long. So I'm going to give it a 3 again, another 3 out of 5. Now what am I going to put it in overall? Overall, I'm going to put the foldable stick in, I think, C. It just wasn't the thing for me. It didn't last very long. It's fine. It has its purposes and its uses, but it just didn't work for me for that long. I don't regret buying it. I think it was a really important step for me to get into using mobility aids more, but it wasn't a step that was going to be very enduring or particularly valuable to me in the long term. So number 10 is a product I've been using every day for like the past probably almost 3 years now, and that is the Cali sleep pillow. And we actually called this pillow the noodle. Like me and Kieran call it the noodle. It's a long pillow, kind of like, I think pregnancy pillows are similar, but they go around your back. This is just one long noodle pillow that you kind of hold as you sleep if you're a side sleeper, and it kind of comes, for me at least, it's all the way from my foot all the way up to kind of the top of my torso. So it's a really long tube pillow basically. And the idea is it's supposed to be better for you if you're a side sleeper to keep a more healthy posture while you sleep. It takes pressure off your joints, which if you have EDS can hang in like weird places and you don't want pressure on your joints. And I have spoke a bit briefly about how it helped me transition from being someone who slept on my front, which is terrible for my spine and I had to stop doing, and it helped to kind of train me to sleep on my side. I actually have 2 of these pillows. The brand is Cali. I have a long noodle one that I sleep with every night, and I also use their side sleeper pillow, kind of their normal pillow, and I really like both of them. So let's get into the ratings for the Cali noodle. Stylishness, not super relevant here, but they come in a range of really cute colours. So there are a lot of colour options available, so I'm just going to give it a 5 for stylishness. It's a pillow. So for usefulness for me, I obviously use this every single night. I use it at home, I use it when I'm staying at Kieran's, and yeah, it's just been extremely helpful for me overall. I find that when I am without it, if I ever unfortunately end up not having it, or if we're at a hotel and I have to use a different type of knee pillow and nothing really for my shoulders, I really, really miss it. So it's very, very useful to me. My only complaint is that I got the like cute fuzzy pink like coverall, like the pillowcase, I guess it technically is, for it, and it was really, really nice at first. But boy, you put that through the wash once and it's like really hard and uncomfortable. And like all the little bits stick to that material. And the other one that I have, which is a normal cotton case, but it's blue, it's a normal material, but again, it bubbles really quickly. So the quality of some of their cases maybe could be improved or be a bit more durable, I suppose, because you are leaning on it all the time, so it is going to get used quite heavily. So I'm going to knock off a point for that, but it's still going to be a 4 out of 5 for me for usefulness because I use it every single night. And similarly for value for money, the cost per use is incredibly low. It is quite expensive when you do buy them and invest in them. I'm not gonna lie, but because I use it every night, it's worth it for me. I wouldn't be without it now. So I still have to give it a 4 out of 5 for value for money. And overall, the noodles go in an S. It's an S tier item. I wouldn't be without it, which I couldn't say for all of these things that I'm rating today, so it's going an S. So this next item, I actually couldn't take a photograph of because I lost them somewhere, and you know what? No big loss. So this next one is the Loop earplugs, the Loop Experience earplugs. I saw these going around YouTube for a while, and I was specifically at the time actually looking for some earplugs because my ears are super sensitive, I get tinnitus, and I get very easily overstimulated. And at the time I had a couple of events coming up. I had Pride in my city, and I was going to a concert as well coming up. And it's super important, even if you don't have ear problems, please protect your ears by using earplugs at concerts because it's not worth risking your hearing for as much as wonderful as concerts can be. It's not worth it. You can still hear everything, just protects your ears. But basically, I wanted some earplugs for a couple of events that I had coming up. Previous to that, I'd just been using this cheap multi-pack pair that I got that were just like a sort of a rubbery silicone type material they were kind of like a cone shape. They weren't made in any ergonomic way. They weren't fancy. They definitely didn't look stylish, and they were pretty cheap for like a multi-pack. And I just wanted something that was a little bit better. And I'd seen some of the YouTubers that I watch have done like ads for Loop, and I was impressed by their website branding. And for me, little bit too much information. I have weird ears. Do you ever notice how small my ears are? I remember when I was learning anatomy for like drawing purposes, and they basically said that an ear should like start with your eye line and then go down to where your mouth was. I remember drawing it and being like, that's a massive ear. And then I realized later that no, my ears are just really tiny. So when I'm using earbuds to listen to music, the only kind that like fit in my ear are like the Apple ones, or the ones that are like shaped like Apple ones. I think Samsung's are pretty much the same, but most types of earbuds just fall out of my ears. So Loop's whole thing is that they fit every type of ear, every size of ear, because each pair of earplugs comes with like, I think 4 different size options. So I was super excited to think they're going to fit perfectly, do a really good job of protecting my ears from too much sound, and I was super excited to get them. You know, in usefulness, I'll get to it in usefulness. I'll get to what happens when I rank them for usefulness. So stylishness first. Honestly, this is a big part of what attracts people to Loop, I think. Earplugs aren't typically known for being very aesthetically appealing, but Loop ones look pretty cool, and I agree, they do look cool. Yeah, you know, I'm going to give them a 5 out of 5 for stylishness because they do look really cool, and that's great for people who can wear them. So next is usefulness. More like uselessness. I remember getting these and trying them on, and I tried every combination. I even tried different sizes in each ear to try and get this right. I tried the extra small size all the way up to the large. None of them will stay in my ear for any period of time. I've tried everything. I adjusted them. I fiddled with like the placement of them to get it right. I looked up their FAQs on how to put them in. I tried everything. And against my better judgment, I actually took them to the concert that we went to that I did a video about back at the end of last year. And I remember Kieran saying to me afterwards, because he was there with me, he was like, boy, those earplugs were giving you some real trouble. Like I was constantly having to like adjust them or try and put them further in my ear because one was falling out, the other one was hurting my ear. They were absolutely functionally useless and they don't fit my ear loop. They just don't. For me personally, I'm sure for some people they're great, which is awesome. But for me, these just did not work at all. And I don't even know where they are, but I wouldn't use them again. I went to an event more recently and took them with me. And I just switched back to using the cheap like multi-pack ones because they actually work a lot better for me than the fancy kind. So they're a little bit too big for my ears, so they do hurt a bit, but at least they actually do their job. So for usefulness, I'm giving these a 1 because they don't even stay in my ears and they're a pain in the ass. Okay, I'm mad about this, I'm sorry. Because value for money, they were a little on the expensive side, but I was willing to pay a little bit more for some good quality ones that would last me a long time. It just wasn't to be. I don't know. I'm salty about this. I'm sorry. They don't have a guaranteed fitting thing, I don't think, but like I was just so excited and they just didn't work. So yeah, for usefulness, they're a 1, and for value for money, they're also a 1 because I can't get any use out of them. So cost per use, they're really expensive. So overall, these are going in the D tier. Again, it's something that's unusable. I can't use it even though I want to. And I just was not a happy bunny. I was not a happy bunny about these. Number 12, massage balls. Sorry, I shouldn't curse. No, I bought some massage balls recently for myself and also one of those foam rollers, but that's a separate thing I haven't used yet, so I can't speak to its success. Because I get really bad tension and pain in my shoulders when I'm sitting at a desk all day, and I try really hard to have good posture. I've watched so many videos. If you want some info about how to sit correctly with EDS, I've watched so many videos about posture and like hypermobility. Like Jeannie DeBon is just an angel and has so many videos on this topic and how to stabilize your muscles. But I do struggle when I'm sitting in a chair all day. I struggle and I get pain and tension real bad. I also have like an adrenaline issue where like on the way back from a concert, after like a ton of adrenaline, like I was shaking even though I didn't want to be shaking and I was trying to stay calm. And Kieran like went to give me a shoulder massage and he was like, these are like 2 iron rods. What is wrong with you? I don't know, but I get real issues with tension in my shoulders. And so I purchased these massage balls. They were on sale, 3 sizes, and they got little like prickies on the end of them, little prickers. And you're supposed to like roll them on your shoulders. And I've been using them for a while now, and they're pretty good. So I wanted to include them here if you too have issues with joint pain, which you probably do if you have like EDS, right? Like that's all of us, unfortunately. But we're all in the same crew. So there you go. So stylishness doesn't really count for these. They're not very nice looking. I had to give them like a 1, but I'm not going to judge them based off that. That's not fair. Usefulness, I do find myself, if they're there, I'll pick them up and just start using them, which is quite handy. They're really easy to kind of like travel with, I guess, because they're quite small with the 3 different sizes. And they do definitely help when I've used them. So for usefulness, I'm going to give them like, I'd say like a 4 out of 5. And then value for money, they were pretty cheap anyway, and I got them on sale. So if I keep using them like I currently am, I'm going to give them, no, for value for money, I'm going to give them a 5 because they do what they say. They actually help me. So that's really good. And they were a cheap way to get some help for my shoulder issues. The next one is my Not Your Grandma's compression socks with dinos. They have dinos on them. So Not Your Grandma's is a company, a small business owned by someone with a disability, I do believe, which is really, really cool. We like to support the, businesses owned by disabled people on this channel. That's always good. Always gotta love that. And I was really excited to support her. And I love the fact that these compression socks come in so many fun colors. That's what drove me to them. And so Not Your Grandma's have a ton of really cool looking compression socks. The style is amazing. There's something for everyone. I got the dino ones. There's so many cool designs. So let's get into the ranking of this one. So stylishness, I'm giving it a 5 out of 5. There's something for everyone. No matter your taste in color, your interests or whatever, you're gonna find some compression socks that look pretty cool and that people are probably just gonna be like, hey, nice socks when they see them, instead of being like, oh my god, look at that horrendously coloured, neutral, weirdly length sock. Oh my god. That people can sometimes, think about regular compression socks. Because let's face it, regular compression socks they're not stylish. So stylishness, 5 out of 5 for these. Usefulness to me, this is where it does kind of fall down just a little bit for me. And honestly, this is probably like partly my fault for not really realizing this because of my body. But as I've said, I'm very tall and I have very long legs. And obviously for compression to work its best, they really need to come up to a certain length. So Not Your Grandma's do kind of calf length socks, really. They come quite high up, almost to the knee, I would say, for most people. But for me, they just didn't come up high enough to really be super effective. I do still wear them and I do think they help, but they're just not as effective as they could be for me. And again, that's kind of like my thing. But I do wish and I do hope, I know it's hard when you're a small business because these things are expensive. And I imagine it's a real fun game with suppliers trying to change sizes of things and kind of like do all of that stuff, especially when it's like one person. But I hope that they do some longer sizes and different sizes in the future, because I would love to have some that work really well for me. So for me personally, I'm going to give them a 4 out of 5. Okay, so next is value for money. These are super reasonable. I think they're usually £15 or so. It could be a little bit more than that, but they're very reasonable. She does sales a lot. I know that because I'm on her newsletter. So yeah, I would definitely recommend, if you're looking for some fun compression socks and other things, they have other things too, to check out Not Your Grandma's, because they're a really cool brand. And overall, I'm going to put these as a B tier for me. If I could get a little bit more use out of them, I would put them higher on my personal list. But I think overall, they're a great product, so you should definitely check them out and give them some support. So the next thing is my Fitbits, specifically my Fitbit Charge 2. And yes, that's a very old one. I think it's about 6 or 7 years old now, my Fitbit. She's getting on, okay? I got it in the first year of uni when I was at uni, so yeah, she's getting on in years, but she is still going. I really enjoy my Fitbit, but the reason I got it and how it relates to my disability is kind of similar to the wake up light. Basically, I learned that Fitbits have or some Fitbits at least, have a silent alarm, which is basically an alarm that wakes you via vibrating on your arm. And I was skeptical about whether it would actually work or not at first, but it really, really works. And honestly, when I started using this, I was like, I would never go back to a standard alarm. It woke me up and I felt so much less groggy and still asleep and not good just by waking up through this like vibration. It works really well for me. I've used it since I got it. Like I said, it's a very long time. And yeah, that's primarily what I use my Fitbit for, to be honest. A few other features are really neat, but like that's the main thing. So for stylishness, I like the color. They are kind of chunky and blocky and they look a lot different now. Mine's pretty old. It's not something that I wear with everything, because with some of my styles, like it looks kind of weird with vintage. So I don't wear it all the time, but I wear it to bed and I wear it around the house pretty much all the time too. You can get different colors. It's just kind of like blocky and not. I wish you could change the style of it a little bit more. So I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 for stylishness for my specific old chunky Fitbit. In terms of usefulness, it's been extremely useful for me. I've gotten a lot of use out of it. I do use other features that it uses. It has a sleep tracker, which is also another reason I got it, actually. Very important if you're trying to track your sleep. And it also tracks your heart rate, which is helpful for POTS if you're trying to like get diagnosed with POTS, like taking in a chart and being like, here's what my Fitbit says. And it's not like an official medical thing, obviously, but like it helps, information helps, right? But yeah, being able to track my sleep's really good. As a quick meditation option for like deep breathing, which is good, track my steps, all that stuff. So I find it really useful and I'm giving it a 5 out of 5 for that, because it definitely does everything that I wanted it to, everything I needed it to, and more. So that's all good. And then for value for money, it was an expensive item at the time. I don't know how much they cost now. I imagine they're more expensive because they probably got more features. But I remember saving up for it, but cost per use is very cheap for me. Like I said, I wear it most days. So I'm definitely going to give it a 4 out of 5 for value for money. And then overall, I'm going to put my Fitbit in the S tier. I wouldn't want to be without it. If mine did eventually end its life here on this earth, I would want to replace it with one. So yeah, I'm going to put it in S tier. It's an irreplaceable item. Would not want to be without it. Number 15 are my compression leggings, and these are relatively new. I got these just before Christmas, I believe, in a sale. I think Kieran found these. We were discussing compression because apparently that's the kind of thing we talk about, and we were on our computers and he Googled, I guess, compression leggings, because I was saying like, I wish I had something I could wear that wasn't just the knee sleeves. They do present various issues, as I've talked about before. And he actually found some compression leggings that were on a really reasonable sale. They're light compression and they're actually made for horse riding. It's like an equestrian website. I have ridden a horse, but I am not a horse riding person. I don't know anything about horse riding. But they were usually meant to be £75, which is pretty expensive. Like, I would not be able to pay that feasibly right out for some compression leggings. Like, it's just, I'd have to save to justify that. But I actually got them on a super sale and they were like £25, which is amazing. They had them in my size and I thought, you know what? I need something like this. I'm going to give it a go. For stylishness, they're not exactly my style that I would wear on like a regular basis or anything like that. They are pretty cute and they look just like kind of yoga bottoms or like exercise trousers, so I can wear them kind of around the house. And I do. That's fine. I can wear them on their own with just like a t-shirt and a jumper or whatever. So I'm just going to give them like a 4 out of 5 for that. They're fine. It's okay. Usefulness. I've worn these a few times. I've worn them on very cold days underneath other layers, so I'll put jeans over the top of them, so that's quite handy. And I've worn them on my own while I've been in the house, sitting and working at the desk to try and prevent all the blood pooling in my knees. They are quite useful. I do see some benefit to the light compression. It does help, but I think in order for it to be kind of a sustained help, I would have to wear them every day, and they're just not comfortable enough for me to wear every day. I can get them on pretty easily, but like, you know, I don't always want to be wearing that material. It's not very breathable. Again, they're made for horse riding, so I'm judging them on like a metric here they're not really made for. But for me personally, for compression purposes, they're pretty good, but they're not super practical for me on a daily basis. So I'm going to give them like a 3 out of 5 for that. And then value for money, they were really obviously reasonable for me personally. So I'm going to give them, I think I'm going to give them a 5. That would be way different. If I'd paid the full price for them, it would not be a 5. But for what I paid, it's a 5. So the overall score I'm going to give these is probably C tier. No, not C tier. That's too harsh. I'm going to put them in B tier because they kind of do what they could feasibly do. They're not my like magical wonder compression product that I'm still searching for. One day I'll find you. But they do something, and I got them pretty reasonably, and I will use them. So I'll probably use them for exercise too, for doing exercise. So, you know, win-win, I guess. And the penultimate item that we're going to be rating today is called Fodzyme, which some of you may know what this is. Some of you may be like, what on earth is that? I did not know that Fodzyme existed until I was at least like a year and a half into being stuck on a low FODMAP diet. And I say stuck because you can very much feel like you are stuck sometimes, especially as a vegetarian on this medical diet. So low FODMAP is not like a diet, it's a medical diet because my stomach is a situation and I cannot stomach most things. They just straight in and out, ill, tired, exhausted, not good times. And I'm currently waiting. I've been waiting for about a year now, over a year to get some help for it. NHS waiting list, folks, they are just great. The point is, I'm basically on low FODMAP, which is what I've worked with a dietitian in the past to try and make my symptoms a little more manageable. They are definitely still there, but they are a little bit more manageable when I avoid certain foods that just give me an immediate flare up and make me very ill. So hopefully I'll be able to work through this when I get some help, but I'm currently on the low FODMAP diet and had been for a very long time. And one thing that really sucks about low FODMAP is it's super hard to eat out. Like if you're going out places or you're visiting a different city, it's always a real worry for, like a genuine worry for me. When you're out and about, you just don't know what the food options are going to be. And it's really, really difficult because you don't want to make yourself ill. So what do? Restaurants don't know what low FODMAP is. And if you give them a list of things you can eat, they'd be like, wow, this is completely unreasonable. And it's like, what's unreasonable is the fact that I can't eat most things. And trust me, if I could, I freaking would. Okay? I want to. So basically, what is Fodzyme? I found out about this through Fod Market, which is like an online store that I order from. Sometimes they do like FODMAP friendly like sauces and stuff like that. Good for low spoons days. Would recommend Fod Market if you are also on the low FODMAP diet. But basically, it is a small sachet of powder. And I'm not going to get into the biochemistry of how it works, but essentially, from my brief understanding, is that you consume this before you eat your food that has FODMAPs in it, and it absorbs the FODMAPs within the food so that you don't get super sick from eating it. It's ingenious. when I found out this was a thing, I was like, oh my God, my life's changed forever. And it has. It's been truly life-changing because I've been able to actually go places and do things and go for meals and not be quite so worried that I'm going to get really ill while I'm out and about places. And it's going to make travel so much easier. So much easier. There are downsides. We'll get into that. So let's get into the ranking of the Fodzymes product. So 1, stylishness. I'm not going to rank it on that. It's a nice green box. Next, usefulness. Incredibly useful product. I will say it doesn't completely fix the problem. Like, I would not like take and eat something with garlic in it, which is one of my biggest trigger foods. I just wouldn't do that. It's not worth it for me. I still can get a bad stomach when I've used this and eaten something, but it's nowhere near the flare up I would usually have. It's a bit of a sort of like, oh, my stomach feels a bit funny. So it doesn't completely get rid of my symptoms so I can eat this food. But when I'm out and about or I need it, then it's incredibly useful. So for usefulness, I'm definitely going to give it a 5 out of 5. It's also very good for travel. Took it with us when we went out the other week to eat food. Perfect. Very good. Travel friendly little sachets. It does look a little like you're pouring, I'm not going to say it because apparently you can't even say it on YouTube anymore, but you can imagine it's a white powder, you're pouring it on your food. Can look a little bit suspicious to other people who are watching you in the cafe, like, what is she doing? Like, what is she putting on her food right now? But it's very, very useful. Very, very useful for me, and it's definitely changed my life for the better. However, and this is a big however, it's incredibly expensive. So I've actually had 2 lots so far of the kind of trial that they send you, which is a little bit less money. And I think you get 5 sachets in a trial kit. And this is supposed to be like your gateway into Fodzyme, and then you can buy it all the time. And they do this big kit that, like, you know, has enough for several months, as if you'd be eating it for every meal. I don't know who can afford that. It's crazy expensive. And like, I just can't, I'm not buying the big one. I can't afford to buy the big one. So I just buy the small ones as and when I actually need them. So this is not an everyday, just don't bother with low FODMAP, just eat the Fodzyme. Eat the Fodzyme. It doesn't work like that unless you're rich. And even so, I'm not really sure if it's a good long-term solution, like from a medical perspective. So, but yeah, it's good for travel, but it's extremely expensive. It's £31 plus shipping for me. To get 5 little sachets. So that's 5 meals. And that is basically, it works for half an hour. So if you're planning on having a starter, a main, and a dessert, and they're all going to be like full of FODMAPs and you can't eat them, one's probably not even going to be enough for you. So it's incredibly expensive. And I do hope the price comes down, because as much as it's like an amazing product in a lot of ways and it's changed my life for the better, having to pay that much to be able to eat food, I don't like it. I don't like it. I hope it comes down in price. I really do. Genuinely. It's not good. So yeah, value for money. This is a really hard one because, like, cost per use, it's still extremely expensive. So I'm going to stick with cost per use and say value for money's, this is hard because it is very valuable as a product. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. Overall, it's going in the A tier. The money is the main issue for me. Other than that, it's an amazing thing. I love it. I would love to be able to afford it more often. At the minute, it's just when I'm going away places or I know I've got to go for a meal or something with someone, but I just can't afford to do it all the time. Final item on this list is something that I use a lot, and that is my trusty footstool. It's very cute. It's a cute footstool. This, I think, I bought myself this, I think last year or the year before, primarily to help when I'm sitting on the sofa or in a chair in my living room, keeping my legs at least kind of parallel to the floor, because I was realizing that sitting with my feet down on the floor, whatever I was doing, watching TV, reading a book, playing a game, in that downtime, it was making the blood pooling worse in my knees and my feet. So I was like, if I have this, it will at least kind of alleviate it a little bit. I know the ideal is to have your like feet above your heart, but like I can't do that all the time. Neither can anyone. Just being upside down all the time, doing things, that'd be the life. I bought this for myself as a good solution to that problem, and I do use it all the time, and I would say it's definitely helped. I'm not constantly panicking that like my legs are going to get really swollen when I'm sitting and just relaxing. Also, it's just nice to put your feet up. It's very relaxing. I find in the morning when it's like taking a while to get going, because that's the chronic fatigue life, having my legs up on the little stool just kind of helps. I think with POTS in the morning, because your blood's kind of drained all the way down to your feet, it helps your circulation a little bit, or it certainly helps my circulation. I'm not a doctor, but like it helps my circulation, and for me to kind of get going a little bit more. So let's score this thing. Let's score this puppy. So stylishness, it's real cute. It's a little pink velour like footstool, and I like the gold legs. It gets a 5 out of 5. It's classy, and you can't say that for all things that you buy for a medical purpose. Usefulness to me, I use this almost every single day, so it's super, super useful. It's an easy 5 out of 5 for me. And value for money, I can't remember how much it was, but I've had this now for like probably a year and a half, maybe getting close to 2 years. And yeah, cost per use, again, it's definitely, it's up there. Don't regret buying it at all. It's wonderful. I wouldn't be without it. So it's going in the S tier. Yeah. That is all the products that I was going to be talking about today. I would love to hear your thoughts if you have any on any of these, if you've had similar experiences, different experiences to me, if you find any of this helpful. Hopefully you do. Again, these are all just my opinions, my personal experiences with these products. Your mileage may vary. Hopefully this has been a fun and kind of amusing video. I hope you guys have really enjoyed it. How did Kieran do? I think from my estimation, because I've only just done the tier ranking right now, this was not a pre-prepared video, I think he ranked things a little higher than I would have for certain items. So good job though. I think he did pretty good. He was very forgiving, that's for sure. I definitely wasn't as forgiving on some of these items, but I think he got the key ones right. He knows about the foot spa, so there you go. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Take care until then. Love and spoons.